we live in Bhubaneswar, this is our capital city, but how much we truly know about Bhubaneswar? I recently discovered certain facts that I am going to share with you through this video so that you also know about our capital city. Now, if you look at Bhubaneswar, it is a very old city as well as a very new city. The old town or the old part of Bhubaneswar has a history dates back to more than 2000 years old, and the new city is extremely new. In fact, the new city was built after independence. So there is a very extremely old Bhubaneswar and there is a very new modern city that we have built. So it carries the history as well as it carries the modern values with it. So it's a very interesting city, and I will tell you in this video who are the people who created the Bhubaneswar city. So let's look at first the cultural heritage or the antiquity of Bhubaneswar. Now, if you look at the antiquity of Bhubaneswar, that is the elephant in Dhauli, and this particular elephant in Dhauli is essentially coming from the Ashokan times or Mauryan times, 2000-year-old rock cut architecture, and this depicts the Buddha's mother, Queen Maya's dream. Okay. Now, if you look at after decline of Ashoka, after decline of Mauryan Empire, we saw emergence of Kharavela, and Kharavela, being a devout Jain, he will go for Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves, and over there we see he will build the basadis for the Jain monks. Okay, so now moving on, so 2003 years old, and there is a continuous history running across Bhubaneswar, and this point of time Khandagiri, although built by say Kharavela, he used to rule from a particular place called Shishupalgarh, and Shishupalgarh till today is in the outskirts of Bhubaneswar. Now moving on, this is little fast forward. Now, Lingaraj temple, Mukteswar temple is built around 9th and 10th century AD. Mukteswar is older than Lingaraj temple. Lingaraj baad mein aaya. Now, Mukteswar temple is a very interesting temple. It is a prototype temple and it is one of the magnificent Kalingan temple architecture, you can consider it. But it is a very small temple, but at the same time a very beautiful temple. If you look at Lingaraj temple, this is a very important temple as far as Bhubaneswar is concerned, because Bhubaneswar derives its name from the Lord sitting over in this particular temple, that is Lord Shiva, who is known as Tribhuvaneswara, and that's how the name came to be of Bhubaneswar. Now, if you compare between Bhubaneswar with say Puri is a Lord Jagannath is a Vaishnav Lord, whereas Bhubaneswar is essentially denoted, or the main deity of Bhubaneswar is Lord Shiva. Now, moving on, we also see building of very interesting architecture in Bhubaneswar, that is Rajarani temple, and Rajarani temple resembles the Khajuraho group of monuments, and which is very unique to Rajarani temple, because in Rajarani temple we saw Sikhara on Sikhara. It represents, just say if you look at Mount Himalaya, okay, there will be a greater peak and surrounding that smaller peaks will be there. Similarly, that means in the temple architecture also we have a Sikhara on Sikhara on Sikhara. That represents the human aspiration to climb higher, higher and higher, or to do better, better and better. So that represents this aspect of, that is the beautiful aspect of Rajarani temple. Moving on, if you look at this particular temple, many people don't know about it. This is Vaitala temple. Okay, why the name Vaitala is there? Because if you look at the roof of the temple, it has a very interesting architecture. This architecture is known as barrel vaulted roof. And if you summarize this whole thing, this religious cultural history of Bhubaneswar, of old town of Bhubaneswar, we have Shaktism, we have Shaivism, and we had Jainism. Okay. Now moving on, let's look at how the new Bhubaneswar came to be, the modern Bhubaneswar that we live in or that we now associate with. There was a very interesting World War II connection with Bhubaneswar. In fact, at the time of World War, India was under the rule of British, and there were two powers, Axis powers and Allied powers. And the Axis powers were led by Germany, whereas the Allied powers, we had USA, we had Britain, etc. Now, because we are part of British colony, so the Allied powers will clear a path. See, that point of time, Bhubaneswar was completely jungle, the modern Bhubaneswar, or the new town that we call today. So, completely jungle tha. Now, they will clear a patch of land and to build a airfield. Okay. So, that will be cleared and they will, build a airfield over there for their military purposes. Eventually, Moving on little bit into history after World War II is over. Now, if you look at Bhubaneswar, the whole city came to be because of four group of people. That is, there was a Brahmin, there was a Odia, there was a Jew, and there was a Muslim. And I will tell you who are these group of people and how they created our city, that is Bhubaneswar. Let's look at the Brahmin. The Brahmin is B.K. Gokhale. He is a Maharashtrian Brahmin. That point of time, governor of Odisha will be Lewis, Hawthorne Lewis will be the governor of Odisha, and he will be the advisor to the governor. And this point of time, Gokhale is searching for a new capital to build or to represent the modern Odisha. This point of time, Gokhale will look at Bhubaneswar and he will see that if the allied powers can clear a patch of jungle and can build airfield and can tame the rats, etc., all that, why can't we build a whole city over here? So he will think of that, and with that rationality in mind, and he will take some geographical aspect into consideration, mild climate, no flooding, it does not come under flood zones, etc. So these things will rationality will be there with B.K. Gokhale, and he will carry this logic and reason and will visit the Odia. The Odia being our beloved Hare Krishna Mahtab. And this point of time, Mahtab will be lodged in Pune jail. So he will have a discussion with Mahtab in the Pune jail, and Mahtab will also agree with the logic and reason of B.K. Gokhale, and both of them now set their goal to make Bhubaneswar as the capital. But after we have decided and they have, they will do all the procedure things, eventually they set out to create Bhubaneswar. Then they have to hire an architect. This point of time, they will hire a Jew. And now the Jew was Otto Königsberger, and this person was a German actually, a Jew living in Germany during the times of Hitler. Because of the persecution of Hitler, he will leave Germany and eventually take shelter in India. He will stay there in India for 30-40 years. Coming from Germany, we know that India is building a new city, a modern city, a secular nation. So he wanted to imbue secularism into our architecture. That was his plan, and he will give the master plan. But he will not build the whole city, or he will not be the true architect in sense. Okay, he will give the master plan of the city. Now, this point of time, what will happen? Enters the governor of Odisha that point of time, that is Asaf Ali. Asaf Ali, what he will do? Now, Otto Königsberger, he will try to propagate this German idea of secularism, but at the same time, Asaf Ali knows that Bhubaneswar has a rich, extremely rich cultural heritage, and we should pay respect to this cultural heritage and we should not disregard it. So there is a debate goes on, there is a conflict goes on between Otto and Asaf Ali, and Asaf Ali, what he will do, being governor of Odisha, he will direct the architecture who will build on the master plan of Otto Königsberger was Julius Baas, and the public works department who will carry out the works. So he will order the architect Julius Baas and the public works department to include the rich cultural heritage into the modern buildings. So out of this conflict or fight between secularism versus our cultural heritage and all that, Bhubaneswar came out to be a mixture of both of the elements. Now that is how Bhubaneswar has been built, and that is how we came to know about the city that we love and live today. Thank you.